Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to At Your Own Pace.
When you're first starting out, like, it's gonna be hard. That doesn't mean that you don't belong there.
I can do whatever, and it's just me being a ridiculous dad that wants to do some good in the world.
I can do this, I am going to do this, and I will do this.
If you're an early morning, 4 a.m. alarm person to get your run in, or you're like me who likes to sleep in and so you'll run at 7 p.m. Either way, it's hard, and I'm going to cheer for you get to your goals. And if you don't, I'm going to be the shoulder for you to lean on as well.
It's forced me to get myself uncomfortable, and I think I've started to get that comfort with the uncomfortable.
Why don't I deserve a chance to be happy and not beat myself up over a bad run?
In more ways than one, running probably saved my life.
I'm Mike from MikeRunsMarathons, and I believe that running has the power to change how we see ourselves, how we show up in the world, and how we connect with each other. At Your Own Pace is a place for honest conversations about growth, resilience, identity, and the courage it takes to keep moving forward when things feel hard or uncertain. Every guest who comes on this show brings a story that reminds us that we're not alone in our journey, and that you don't need a PR, a podium, or a perfect training plan to belong here. You just need the willingness to keep showing up. Now, today's guest isn't just a runner. They are a voice for the running community. And they run a media platform that celebrates runners of all paces. They share their stories and connect athletes from all walks of life. He's a good friend, an incredible supporter of not just my running journey, but for everyone he comes in contact with, either in person or online. He was one of the very first people to support me when I first started posting into the void, as I point out and say to him all the time, about running, hoping that someone would see what I was posting and hear what I was saying at the beginning of 2025. So without further ado, I want to bring in Jason. Thank you so much for joining me. I am so excited to speak with you about Run, Try, Bike, and to just learn about the history of it and to also learn more about you. I know that we've been able to talk for many months about, just kind of our stories. And I've been on a couple of your shows, and we had the chance to meet in New York back over the summer, which was awesome. And by the way, I'm really jealous of the road show that you're going on over on the West Coast, because if I could, I'd fly out there just to see you guys again if I could.
Well, I got to tell you, I've gotten 3 or 4 messages since we made that announcement earlier this week about is 2027 going to have more East Coast stops? So nice. We haven't even taken step 1 on 2026, and we're already being asked about 2027's East Coast tour. So it's coming.
Listen, this is like your own Eras tour right now. Trying to figure out where you're going to go all around the country. That's awesome.
It's cool, and we're watching the Eras tour on Disney Plus right now. The series that
the new series.
Released.
I'm trying to get my wife wants to watch it, and she keeps telling me I want to watch it at the right moment, and I'm like, okay, I guess this is just like a Taylor Swift thing. That's fine with me, because everything got messed up when I had my surgery. But hopefully we'll be able to watch it soon, because I can tell that she's dying to watch it. Now, for the listeners who don't know, can you give a quick introduction about what is Run, Try, Bike, and what's the vision behind it?
Yeah, so I'll actually go a little bit further back and let people know that I started running in 2007 when my first ex-wife, came home one day, and she said, "Hey, we have to participate in the Westchester Half Marathon." I was living in White Plains, New York at the time. And my first response was, "Who's this we? You got a mouse in your pocket? What do you mean we have to run this half marathon?" Former high school athlete, the idea of running a marathon was no chance. I got it. I did it. I loved it. Fast forward about 12 years to the end of 2020. Everybody's going through COVID and the pandemic. And at that point in time, I had raced Ironman. I had raced 100 milers, raced marathons, and had just come off of racing Cocodona 250 that year, or was about to race a Cocodona 250, excuse me. And throughout my journey, I recall seeing all people of all shapes, sizes, and colors. And yet, if you opened up any print magazine or you went to any website, all you saw were 6'2", 150-pound white dudes that ran a marathon in 2.5 hours or finished an Ironman in 8. And I'm a 5'6" Puerto Rican kid from the Bronx, and I'm not finishing a marathon in 2.5 hours. And my fastest Ironman is like 11 hours and 20 minutes or something like that. And so I was like, where are all the people that look like me? Where are all the people that I train with on a regular basis? Where are all the people that I see at the starting lines? And so that was sort of the inspiration for starting the company. And we launched it with a vision and mission to prove that there is a spot at the starting line for every body and every body. And every time I talk about Run, Try, Bike, that's what we talk about is like these sports are for everybody. And it's not just the physical side of it all that I want people to understand too. It's the mental side. Like you become a better person when you go through the obstacles and the hurdles that endurance sports brings us, which makes you a better human or should make you a better human. There are some influencers out there that it hasn't helped, but you get my point.
Yeah. Now, with Run Try Bike, I know that we've discussed it before. So it started as an actual magazine, correct? Like an actual
Correct.
newsletter that you used to physically mail out, and it morphed over into what it is today. Did you ever imagine that the amount of people that were interested or became involved with the organization would become what it is today?
No, when we first started, it was a physical print magazine that you had to subscribe to. For those of you who are as old as I am, you probably had subscriptions to Sports Illustrated. It was the same thing. Like we would get subscribers. And I think at the time when we launched it, I think we honestly, like the numbers were fairly dismal. I think we had like 50 subscribers to the physical print magazine. I was printing 5,000 copies of the magazine though, and mailing them to running shoe stores and triathlon shops all across the country to just hand out to their customers for free. And so if I think about this idea that we had 50 subscribers, for issue 1, and today across all social media platforms, we have somewhere in the vicinity of like 13, 14,000 followers, there's 0% chance that back, at the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, I would have thought that we would be where we are today. And here's the thing about perspective. Let's fast forward to 2030. I hope I have the ability to tell you on your podcast that, well, in 2025, 2026, we had 13, 14,000 followers, and now we have 100,000 followers or whatever that number might be.
Yeah, and I mean, we've definitely seen the endurance sport just in general, not even running, but also biking, triathlon, Ironmans just explode over the last couple of years. I think primarily due to a lot of people getting into it during COVID. But, you point out a really important gap in the running community and in the media when it comes to those people that we see on television or online of those individuals that are doing these endurance sports that are now it's not even 2.5 hours. Now it's 2 hours and 10 minutes is considered slow.
Right.
Like for a marathon, it's ridiculous. And I think it's incredible that you look at all those individuals that finish 2 hours and 11 all the way up to 9 hours and 30 minutes or 10 hours in order to complete a marathon, let alone whatever it takes to complete an Ironman. I don't know if I'll ever be able to complete one of those. So I have no idea how long they normally would take. But I think that the mission that you bring of being an advocate and a voice for those individuals that don't normally have a voice is so paramount in today's world where I talk about the changes between you doing the print and the virtual now for how you communicate with people. Social media has in some ways become a massive detriment to our mental health in terms of the way that we look at ourselves, and seeing all these individuals that are of a certain body type, of a certain look, of a certain pace, finishing these endurance sports. And it's really easy for us to think, I can't do this. Like that, I can't do this time. I don't look like this person. But when it comes to helping people get over that hurdle of judgment within themselves from what social media shows, how has the mission evolved over time?
It hasn't changed. If anything, I'm digging my heels in deeper. I was once asked on a podcast if there's been any blowback to me talking to everyday athletes and highlighting everyday athletes and showcasing everyday athletes. And my answer to that question was blowback from who? Like who am I supposed to be expecting blowback from? And that kind of created this mindset for me that I'm going to dig my heels in deeper.
Mhm.
And over the course of time, since that interview, a few things have happened. I had a conversation with Becky Croft, who some might know as Coach Croft, and she said something so profound to me that I still think about today and still talk about today. And she asked, "Who are you following?" And so when I started going through our social media accounts, I realized I wasn't following as many indigenous athletes or Black athletes or Hispanic athletes as I originally thought I was. And so I started following them. And then we had Zach Friedley on the Enduring Minds podcast, which you've been a guest on. And Zach has a blade that he runs with. He's had that disability since he was born. And when I asked him, who were your heroes growing up? He said, well, there wasn't anybody running with a blade. And he said to Evan and I, he said, if I can see it, I can be it. And that kind of resonated with me because that's sort of the mindset we've had for the business from the beginning, that if you see somebody that looks like you think that you have a better chance at doing it as opposed to somebody who's not like you. And so I think the mission has gotten even more ingrained in what we're doing. And I will say this, because of the support of folks like yourself who talk about the landscape in the world and not just in running, and being surrounded by my wife Lori and Santino and Joe, you may notice like there's a little bit more street edge New York City to the things that we're doing. So our Run Club tour has spray painted logos and graffiti style logos on it because I was born in the Bronx, grew up in New York, right? Worked in Manhattan. That's who I am. And so allowing that to come out a little bit more, because I want the Puerto Rican kid who's in the Bronx today, who's like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm not good at baseball. I'm not good at football. I'm not good at the traditional sports. See me and say, well, if he can do it, I can do it too.
No, exactly. And you've met so many people, not just, physically when you have your get-togethers, but also the number of different podcasts that you host. Can you speak on those and just kind of what inspired you to start each of those? Because you have several different topics that you go through within each one.
Yeah.
And what kind of inspired you to start each one of those?
So the first one, Fireside Chat, which is our bellwether, was started by accident, honestly. Who is a former partner of mine in the company, was like, we should do this. And I was like, yeah, why not? I'm a big believer of take risks and bet on yourself. And worst case scenario is after 4, 5, 6 episodes, you shut it down. You gave it a shot and didn't work and you shut it down, but it really did work. And as we were interviewing different people from different backgrounds, I was like, well, this person really likes music and this person likes food and this person like there's probably other people out there who want to talk about this too. And one of the things I'm a big proponent of, like, running is what we do. It's not who we are. And so I want to get to know people beyond the running stats, beyond the paces and everything else. And what are you really into? And so we launched our Fiery Embers because we were getting so booked on Fireside Chat well in advance that we were like, well, maybe we should fill in some holes here and get people on when they can show up. And it's really a Seinfeld-esque type of show where there is no plot, there is no storyline. It's like, let's just chat and get to know these people. And then that bled into launching the network that we have. And Joe Harden is a big part of that. And he talks to mostly ultra runners in the Midwest because that's where he's from. And he gets people on that show to basically showcase that, yeah, we are everyday athletes too. And we're running 100 milers or, day to day or multi-day, events. The mental health podcast that you came on, Evan Birch, was like, hey, I'd like to talk to you about X. And before you know it, we were connecting on our mental health struggles. And we were like, we should do a podcast about this. And so it's kind of been that sort of scenario, Mike, where one conversation leads to another. And right now I'm actually having a conversation about launching another show that's, I don't know if you've ever seen The Barbershop with LeBron James, and when it's him and like 3 or 4 of his friends sitting around just shooting the shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's like when you finish the run and you're sitting around at brunch or the coffee table, like that's a show. And so I'm in the process of potentially putting that together for 2026 because I think we as human beings in today's world, we need that connection. We don't need the over produced, overhyped posts. We want that connection, and hearing stories of failure and laughter and the things that happen on a regular basis, we can now bring to the digital world. And so that's how a lot of these shows come about, is like, hey, what about this? Hey, what about that? And if it sticks, great. And if it doesn't, exit out and move on to the next one.
No, exactly. And that's one of the things I really love about what you do is your authenticity behind everything that you put together is like, it's very true. And it's not something that is one sugarcoated. I liked how you said it's what you do is very New York City-esque because, I grew up in New York City for 17 years and I see it. And I think that's probably one of the things that drew me to you is that kind of mentality that we share. But I also love the fact, and you pointed out perfectly, of the fact that we have these individuals on social media and they point out only their successes. They only point out when they win, and they don't point out a lot of the setbacks that they have, whether it's something we talk about endurance sport, something they're dealing with specifically with that, like an injury, or if they're having issues with the type of workouts that they're doing, but also things in the back end, I know a lot of people don't want to share this information, but like issues with family or issues with their mental health or issues with friends or something else that's going on, a loved one. It's something that I feel is really lacking in today's society as social media becomes this massive, huge phenomenon of like, this is apparently now real life versus what actual real life is. And so I really enjoy the fact that you have all these different shows where you can bring people in to either talk about specific topics like men's mental health, or you talk about food, or you just, as you pointed out, shoot the shit. And I remember doing that podcast with you where you were just asking me random questions about like, who would you rather have dinner with? Or would you rather have this sort of drink? Or would you rather go to this place and things like that? It was really fun. And it was a breath of fresh air because there's so many areas, I think, now in our lives where we feel like we have to be constantly just turned on. What you offer is a much more relaxed, come as you are, and will accept you as you are kind of mentality, which I think is really comforting and is a breath of fresh air that we don't really see in today's, just, I think, not even endurance sports or running, but like in the world in general now, is everyone has to be at a specific level. And if they're not, then you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the whole thing, right, Mike? Like, life is really hard. It is really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I can interject 10 minutes, an hour that allows somebody to let their hair down, although I don't have any, and they can smile and laugh a little bit, like, yes, like more of that. If we can do that. And so then I think the other part of that too is so that if we can make people feel comfortable, then we can talk about the hard things too. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So Evan Birch, who's my co-host on Enduring Minds, called me earlier this week. First of all, he sends me a text message and he's like, hey, you have a few minutes to talk? And immediately, right, the sirens are going off in my head. Like, what's the problem? What's the not good thing that he wants to talk about? And he's like, it has nothing to do with the podcast. It has nothing to do with business. I just want to chat. And we talked for like 30 minutes and it was so refreshing. Like, there was no on button. It was just chit chat between two friends. And it was the first time we've ever done it outside of a podcast episode. But I think we are able to have that conversation because we've talked about the hard things on the podcast. We talked about my disordered eating. We've talked about his PTSD. And because we're able to share that, then we can circle back to this idea of let's just talk to each other. And we did wind up talking about some serious things, but it wasn't heavy. It included humor and being able to poke fun at each other and enjoy our time together, which is what I hope people get when they come to our platform, whether it's on social media, through our website, newsletter, whatever it is, that for a brief moment in a hard day, in a hard week, in a hard month, in a hard year, we're able to interject some levity to them and let them know that it's okay to not be okay because life is hard.
Absolutely. You talk, I mean, the whole persona of Run Try Bike is stories and understanding people of where they are and learning about who they are and being able to share their thoughts and their missions and their goals and their aspirations and their setbacks. What's a story or a post or something that was said to you from whether it's a podcast or something you saw online that made you realize that Run Try Bike was doing something meaningful or something more than you thought it was?
I'll tell you this, I see it almost every day on threads. And 9 times out of 10, it has nothing to do with us. They're not talking to Run Try Bike. they're posting. Somebody may not, I'm going to post about my run and I know nobody's going to care. And like that, it's like a magnet for me, Mike. I immediately go there and I'm like, I care. Tell me more. Even one of our members, Kathleen Smith, who's on the Everyday Athlete, who's in the Everyday Clubhouse, who I adore, she came to one of our dance classes, which was really cool. She posted, she's like, I'm considering doing this Substack or this newsletter or blog post or something. And I know nobody will read it. Now she's in the clubhouse. And I was like, wait a minute. So I immediately emailed her or messaged her and I said, no, we'll share it on our website, like post it, and so she has sent it to me. And I think that's the thing, is that we often feel unseen in this world. The social media algorithms, they go a million miles an hour. The news is like a 2.4-second cycle these days. It's not even 24 hours. Like everything is happening so fast and we feel alone and lost in this world. And I'm like, yeah, but you're not. And it's hard to realize that you're not alone. And so if I can ask somebody when they're like, hey, I ran my first 5K or I ran my first marathon, I'm going to respond with a woohoo or a celebratory comment, or please share your picture, right? I had a conversation with Lori, my wife, 2 days ago, and she said something along the lines of like, is it considered bragging? And I'm like, no, like you worked really hard to do this. You worked really hard to do this and you should celebrate it.
Absolutely.
You should absolutely celebrate it. So I don't know that it's one story, Mike. I think it's the number of stories that I see that are on a regular basis, especially on Threads, just because of the nature of the platform itself, that I get to see people. I did my first marathon. I did my first run. I'm going to do my first marathon. I'm going to do my first Ironman, whatever it is. And that's what pulls me in. And I will say it in conjunction to what we talked about earlier about if you can see it, you can be it. So I mentioned I'm a Puerto Rican kid from the Bronx, and I've never seen another Puerto Rican kid from the Bronx until Robert Rodriguez came on to our fireside chat a number of years ago, and I had no idea all I of Robert, other than he participates in running events and triathlons with a blade. And so I was going to interview him about having that physical challenge. And I asked him, who's Robert Rodriguez? And he said, well, I'm a Puerto Rican kid from the Bronx. And I fucking lit up. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, if anybody goes back to YouTube and watches the video, you'll see my reaction. It happens within the first minute of the conversation. And that is when I knew, okay, if I'm having that reaction to Robert, then there absolutely is an African-American female who's having that reaction to another African-American female. There's an indigenous male having that same reaction to another indigenous male. There's a person in the LGBTQIA plus community who's having that same reaction to another person in the LGBTQIA plus community. That is kind of like the story that puts it all together, that gives me the idea that, yeah, if it happened to me, I know it's happening to others.
Absolutely. No, and it's funny you point out the individuals that run. They say I went on my first run today, or I ran a mile without stopping, or I did my first 5K or marathon, because I remember when I first started posting on Threads, I think I legit posted something about like, I'm just shouting into the void, hoping that I will find runners. And you were one of the first people to follow me or comment on it. And now whenever I'm on Threads and I'm looking through individuals that come up for me that do those types of posts where I'm just, I ran my first marathon or something like that, 9 times out of 10, the first comment that's on it that comes up for me is you, which is incredible. And it also inspires me to leave my own comment, because it makes me realize that, this is a team effort, and it's not just a one person needs to do this. We all need to do this as a community, and we all need to walk the walk as well as talk the talk if we're going to be people that are going to support those runners of all backgrounds, regardless of paces, finish times, body types, what have you. We know is a really hot topic today in today's society in our country. And I know that you talked about, the hearing from that one runner, I'm a Puerto Rican from the Bronx, and it lighting you up. But as a triathlete media outlet, why is it important to highlight runners of all backgrounds, paces, ages, and motivations? I would love to have you explain to just other people who might be listening just why this is so important.
This idea that I wouldn't connect with another human being is wild to me. I don't understand it. I don't get it. And so being able to have a diverse platform that includes everybody allows my world to open up. It brings people into my life that wouldn't be there if I was closing doors left, right, and center. And so I just, look, man, people can argue all day that diversity isn't a strength, and that's full on bullshit. Again, I grew up in New York. You don't get much more diverse than that.
Yes.
And I worked a block and a half away from the UN. And so just walking to and from my office, I would see people from other countries coming into Manhattan for a week when they had the UN conferences. And it was amazing, right? The clothes, the colors, the languages, like I was fascinated by it all. And it lit me up then. And so I think it should do the same now. Like, I really love saying, like, get uncomfortable. Like, really get uncomfortable. And it's something that I've really worked with myself this past year, with getting to know the indigenous community. I I I, I asked this question once or a few times, like, when you think of indigenous people, what pops into your mind? And I've asked this of indigenous people, and they said the old Wild West movies,
Mhm.
right? Where you have cowboys and Indians as they were sold to us. And it was always in the negative light. And I said, well, how does that make you feel? And so we would get into these conversations, and it opened up a world for me where I got to understand the obstacles and the hurdles that the indigenous community was facing, or is facing, not was, is facing. And so I just think that doing that, like, here's a white presenting dude, even though I'm Puerto Rican, talking to indigenous people, and it can show that we can connect with each other. Here's a cis hetero male talking to somebody who's LGBTQIA plus, and we can bridge that gap and have conversations. Here's a white presenting male Puerto Rican talking to a black athlete. Like, I just think if we can show that we can shake hands and have conversations and get uncomfortable in those conversations, then we all grow as people and we are better for it. I don't know, Mike, just the idea of like, oh, I wouldn't train with that person because they're black, or I wouldn't train with that person because they're queer. Just, it's wild to me. It makes no sense.
It makes me mad when people aren't accepting of other people for who they are. To not like someone because of just genuinely who they are as a person, whether it's the way that they look, the way that they sound, their background, where they come from, or their sexuality, gender identity, it makes me furious because we were raised on this idea that, it's specifically this country is a melting pot, right? And that we are better together because of our diversity. And now we're being taught the exact opposite is true. But on a positive note, have you seen any shifts in what you may have seen with the people that you're interviewing, or in the community as a whole, around runners, about what they care about, from the mindset with community wellness? Have you seen that have kind of an uptick or growth versus what we see in social media right now, of the focus on just the wins and the performance?
Zero doubt. So one of the stories I love sharing is a few years ago, we, like any other company in America, June Pride Month, right? And we were going to switch the logo from the rainbow flag and the pride flag, excuse me, to our regular logo. And I was like, wait a minute. They don't stop being queer on July 1st the same way you don't stop being Hispanic on October 16th. Like, this is stupid. What are you doing? And so we left it up. And it's been part of our website since that moment. And the vast majority of our logos on our social media platforms are that way. And I had a transgender athlete. I got connected to them. And during the interview, at the very beginning of the interview, they said to me, I checked out your platform, and the moment I saw the pride flag, I knew it was a supportive space, and I felt comfortable in continuing with this conversation. That was the very first time it was ever said to me. And I can tell you since then, the number of people that have said to me, I saw the pride flag and I knew that it would be a supportive space, and they weren't queer. They weren't in the queer community. It's been just people who have said, oh, I know I can talk here and I can be myself here and I can allow my story to be told here. And I think that is indicative of who we are as a platform and who we are as a community, as opposed to, well, you only talk to people who run 6-minute miles, or you only talk to people who can ride their bike at 22 miles an hour, or whatever it might be. And so that shift for us is absolutely something that I have seen. And I will tell you this as well. In the years that we've been here, one of the things I have noticed is I refer to them as comers and goers. people who see our platform and are like, I'm going to launch a business or a podcast because of what those guys are doing. And they don't stick around long enough, right? They get 2, 3, 4, 5 episodes in. And I think it's because they're not doing it from a genuine place. I think they're doing it because they want to have a big hit, leveraging the everyday athlete who isn't running, 212 marathons or 7.5 hour Ironman. And they realize like it's really hard to get people to open up and be comfortable with you if you haven't been doing it for a long time. And I benefited from the fact that I had a blog for a number of years before I launched this business where I was sharing my trials and tribulations on training and all of that stuff. And so when people came to talk to me, I already had sort of like a history with that. And it really helped to get people to say yes. But I haven't always had people say yes. I've had people when we first launched, when I would say, hey, would you mind talking to me? Be like, yeah, I don't know. And I think the comers and goers find that out because it's not from a genuine place. And I think that you have to lean into it more. And then you'll start to see on the other side, like, okay, people are willing to talk to me, even though they're finishing their marathon in 6.5, 7 hours, because we remove this idea that you're not a runner if you finish it in 6.5, 7 hours. Almost, I would like to say, I don't know for sure, that every interview I've ever done has celebrated the finish and never asked about the metrics. How fast did you finish it in? That kind of stuff.
One of the things that I hate about Strava is the fact that if you mark something as a race, it'll show you all the people that also did that race with you, and you can click on the people and you can compare and see how you did versus. That's what I do like almost after every race. And I remember being like, man, I think I did really well. And then I would go and click on someone's profile and see what they did. And I'd be like, shit, I didn't do as well as them. I could have done better. And it becomes an endless cycle of beating myself up over and over again. And one thing that I've learned from posting on threads and from reaching out to people and speaking with people like you and really advocating for those individuals that are athletes of all backgrounds and capabilities is that they know a bullshitter when they see one. Like they will know someone who is genuinely interested in their successes versus someone who is trying to get like 5 seconds of fame or like a soundbite or something like that. And that's one of the things that I learned too, is like, I know when people are talking about to me when I was finishing those marathons and not being happy with them, when someone was like, it's okay, you did the best you could. And the difference between them genuinely being like, no, you did the best you could. Like you should be proud of what you did. And then being like, oh, you weren't as good as this person, but I guess you did fine. And so it makes me happy that we have one thing that I've been able to really find on threads and on Instagram and TikTok are these individuals that are focused solely on celebrating the athlete as a whole, rather than focusing, as you point out, on a metric.
I'd also like to point this out too, right? You took over 1,000 days to get from your first marathon to breaking 4 hours. And you've gone on to even faster times. And you should be celebrated for that because you've put in the work. It's not necessarily what your finish time is today that is essentially celebrated. It's the work that you put in from when you first started till now. I'm a very competitive person. I made the announcement during our Beyond the Training first episode that's on our YouTube channel with Santino that my goal for this, going into the marathon distance for the first time in 14 years, I asked my wife, what's a 52-year-old male average time for the marathon in 2024, 2025, or whatever year it was? And she's like, somewhere between 4:13 and 4:28. So immediately I was like, okay, 4:15. I've run as fast as 3:31 at one point. And I was like, okay, 4:15. And I was like, well, if I can do 4:15, I can do 4 hours. And then I was like, well, if I could do 4 hours, I could do 3:45. And so we set the goal to be 3:45 for next year at some point, right? Whether it's in Oakland at the beginning or if it's San Francisco towards the end. So I'm a very competitive person, but whether or not I break 3:45 isn't the thing that I'm going to be most proud of. It's going to be the work that I've put in to get to 3:45. And I say that because I want people who are listening to this who may not be trying to break 4 hours or are not capable of breaking 4 hours today. We're still competitive. We still want to compete. We still want to be good. But that doesn't mean that I don't give a shit about what you're doing. I really am going to celebrate you. And if it's 5 hours at the marathon or 14 hours at an Ironman, or it takes you the full, I don't know what Cocodona is. I think it's like 120 hours or something. the full 120 hours at a Cocodona, I'm going to celebrate you. My goals don't diminish your achievements, and my achievements don't diminish your achievements. And I think people need to understand that. It's not that I don't care about my own times. It's not that I'm not competitive. I want to get there, but that doesn't detract from what you've accomplished and doesn't mean that I don't get to celebrate you, because again, I recognize hard work, right? And that's what it is all about. Is if you're an early morning, 4 a.m. alarm person to get your run in, or you're like me who likes to sleep in, and so you'll run at 7 p.m. It's hard. Either way, it's hard. And I'm going to cheer for you to get to your goals. And if you don't, I'm going to be the shoulder for you to lean on as well.
I mean, I think the quote is something along the lines of a marathon is thousands of miles long. The race is just the last 26.2. So, I mean, you pointed that out beautifully. Yeah, so many people focus on that end result of what you finish with. And I mean, I'm so like guilty of doing this as well, of just not looking back and being like, oh, when I first started my training cycle, I was, someone who's run their first marathon. It's like, I was barely even running a 5K. Now I ran 26.2 miles. Like the amount of growth in that amount of time is incredible. And a lot of people forget because they just get so fixated on just like that one moment.
I mean, Javelina is a perfect example of that. I DNF'd at Javelina, and I was beating the snot out of myself for DNFing at mile 52. And after some perspective and eating and getting calories and getting my mind back together, I was like, I still ran 52 fucking miles, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's incredible. Like, pat yourself on the back.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just a matter of perspective. And so I think you putting your story out there, you having this podcast allows people to gain perspective on what they're doing, because they hear the struggles that a person like yourself has gone through when, you qualified for Boston, but simultaneously you're clicking on that Strava thing and thinking, I qualified for Boston, but this other person was better than me, right? Like, we are still human beings. We still struggle. It's not, always unicorns and rainbows, but it's perspective is the thing that we have, I think, through experience is what we've gained. And experience can also be gained by listening to your podcast or coming to the Run Try Bike platform and reading other people's stories. And I think once you have that, then those moments of doubt start to dissipate a little bit. They don't get eliminated, but they dissipate a little bit.
Yeah. No, especially when you have such a supportive community around you who's ready to lift you up when you feel like you're not doing your best. I can't tell you the amount of times that this community has helped me so much this year. And I've gone through a lot, which is to say, a little. And I cannot believe that I have a community like this now to be able to lean back on and support. I mean, I remember one of the first things you ever told me when we were talking about, the importance of, not just being there for the everyday runner and the athlete, but also making sure that people understood that they had a safe place to be, based off of their gender identity or their sexuality or their color of their skin or things like that, whether they, they're disabled or not. And I remember you saying, there's more than one of us out there. You don't have to hold all of it yourself, and that you can pass the baton to somebody else to be able to pick up where you left off so that you don't get burned out. And being able to, the amount of people that I've seen comment on things that I posted recently, just because of the surgery that I've had and just issues that I've been having in my personal life, a lot of them have been from people being like, you've already given so much to us. Let us give something back to you. And I cannot tell you the amount of times that I've cried reading about that. So those of you that are on Threads that have commented that, thank you for making me cry.
It's funny you bring that up, because I was about to ask you when you first started that conversation point was, do you think you've set a PR in crying this year? Because I know I have. It's wild though, because I fully am there with you. Like the emails and the text messages and the DMs that I get, and I try to let people know, like, you moved me. Like this either put a huge smile on my face or you made me cry or whatever, because I think people also need to know that too, that their words matter. Because we often talk about words mattering from a negative light, right? When you insult somebody or whatever it is, from a negative perspective, we often say words matter. But words matter from a positive side too. And so when somebody sends us a comment that is uber positive and it does make me cry or it makes me smile big, I let them know, because I want them to then have that dopamine hit versus the dopamine hit of putting up a picture of themselves doing whatever and having that button get tapped. Like dopamine should be able to come in multiple forms. And I know that when somebody says that made me smile, it makes me feel good. I want to do more of that. And so I think if I can tell somebody what you just said to me made me smile, I want them to then say, okay, I can do more of that to other people as well.
Amen. And it's funny when you brought up javelina. I remember Lori posting on the Runtrimag account as you were running along, and I remember her posting this, saying, "Oh, there's something with his kidneys," and not just myself, but like several other people were commenting, being like, "I'm sorry, his what? Get this man off the road!" Like he needs to stop. Like no one was like, he needs to keep pushing. We know that you were, because she kept saying that you were like, I have to keep going. But so many of us who were commenting, being like, he needs to be okay. He needs to rest. He ran 50 miles, as you pointed out. Like that's more than most people will ever run at once in their entire life. Like I don't even think I'll ever be able to run 50 miles. And it like the amount of people that came forward to like surround you to be like, we know that you're going to beat yourself up. Like, we know it's going to happen. We're here to like, let you know, like, it's okay. Like, you're not a failure. You didn't like a DNF doesn't, the F doesn't mean failure. It means just you didn't finish, and you're going to be okay. And you still accomplished a lot. And to see that happen like in real time, as she was like live, live threading, live posting was so awesome to see, because it showed just like how quickly you think the running community, I guess because of just like the amount of people that we know is rather small, but it's really big. But you realize how quickly random strangers will be like, swoop in and be like, no, you're okay. We got you. You can rest now. Like you accomplished this. Don't go to that headspace. And it's wonderful that I've been able to see that, you know, with other people like yourself, and also with what I've seen from the community as well. One thing that I wanted to just gather your thoughts on about the running community, and it's something that I know that your organization really is fighting against, is I want to talk about the misconceptions. And when you brought this up about, you know, the finish times and the body types, and, you know, those individuals that you normally that you're used to seeing like on the television or in the magazines or online, what's one common misconception about the running community that you hope to help correct or challenge, or like in essence try to stop?
The grinding, the whole idea of grinding. Like David Goggins gets people into this stuff. I know I've talked to plenty of people that, oh, David Goggins inspired me. And I get it, right? I full on understand it. But after a little while, like this idea that I'm going to run with a broken knee or a torn hamstring or my hip exploded, like cut the shit, man. Like seriously, like these sports we should be doing. Like here's a great visual. We often see somebody say to the 80-year-old who just finished the half marathon, I want to do that when I'm 80. And then you look at their Strava account and it's like easy run. It's zone 4 and zone 5. Or the comment in their Strava box or on Instagram is, I tore my ACL at mile 2 and I kept going. And it's like, look, you're never going to be able to run at 80 if you're beating the living crap out of your body today. You have to rest. You have to recover. You have to hydrate. You have to eat. And the eating thing I've learned personally, because I had a disordered eating. I shouldn't say had. It's not past tense. I deal with it still to this day, where it was like lighter is faster, lighter is faster, lighter is faster. And all I was doing was eating myself from the inside out. I probably could have been faster if I had actually eaten, right? But I was depriving my body of energy. And so like this whole idea of grinding drives me crazy. Like if you say to yourself, when you wake up on Wednesday morning and you're like, man, I just don't have it in me today, and you decide not to do it, I'm going to applaud you. If you get up on Wednesday morning and you say, I don't have it in me today, but I'm going to try, and you go and you take that first quarter mile, half mile, you're like, I don't have it in me, I'm going to applaud you as well. I don't want people to believe that the only way to get to the finish line is by grinding and grinding and grinding, because all you're going to end up doing is becoming flour and dust by doing that. I coach athletes and I tell them right from day one, if your training plan, we use Training Peaks, if your training plan is 100% green, you're going to be injured. I guarantee you, because you're doing things when I know you might be sick. You're doing things when I know that you're probably stressed out about life. And so you're not performing well. You're not paying attention to everything. Your training peaks should look like a Christmas tree, green, yellow, red. Like it should look like a Christmas tree when it's all said and done, because that means you took rest and recovery when you needed to. That means you cut a run short or a bike workout short when you needed to. Like it doesn't have to be this full on perfection, because I know for a fact that you're living your life.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't get paid to do this stuff, which means you've got a job to go to, or maybe you just got laid off and you got to deal with that, or you have a spouse that you have to deal with, or you just got divorced that you have to deal with. Like life is happening. And so if you're constantly grinding, that's a problem. And I don't want people who are just getting into the sports to think that unless I'm pushing myself to the utter brink of blow up, I'm not doing it right. No, like take the time, dial it back, take those rest days, take easy days.
It's really nice that you say that, because every single person that I've spoken to on this podcast, whenever I talk to them about the beginning and I ask them to give me one piece of advice to give to somebody, if they were talking to either themselves when they first were getting started or thinking about running, or if they were going up to somebody who was questioning about getting started, is it's going to suck at first. And it's important for you to say what you just said, because yeah, it's going to suck because your body is not built for that endurance yet, but it's going to suck even more if you go out there hard from the very beginning and your body's not used to it, from like a muscle skeletal like perspective and also a mindset, because you're going to burn out so quickly and you're going to hurt yourself so bad. I used to look up to David Goggins so much. Like he used to be like my hero. I can't tell you the amount of times I ran to his 2 audiobooks. I finished the Philly Marathon actually in 2023 to his, I think it was Can't Hurt Me. And I used to listen to it like, I would finish it and then I'd restart it. So I listened to it at least like 25, 30 times. And I really loved the idea of the mentality of not giving up. But then the more I thought about it, the more I like dived deep into the things that he was saying, and taking a step back and looking at it from a perspective of like, if I was a new runner or a new athlete trying to come into a sport, and this guy was saying like, no, motherfucker, like by the time you finish, you should be mentally and physically and emotionally exhausted. You shouldn't be able to use your knees by the time you're 50. Like I finally was like, you know what? I don't think this is the right mentality to have, because if that was what I was doing, like when I first started running, I had no training plan. I had like no idea what a training plan was. I thought the only way to get fast was to run fast. So I just consistently ran. I mean, I didn't know what zone heart rate zone running was at the moment. So I probably ran at like zone 4 or 5 all the time. And I got injured a lot. I could count at least once or twice a month, or at least every 1 or 2 months, there would be a week where I'd be sidelined because something would happen to my knee. And it was just like a thing that I was like, you know what? I guess this is just what happens to me as a runner. It's just, I have to put a week off because I hurt my knee. And it wasn't until I started to get smarter at my training, and I started to realize that like the grind is actually the enemy. And the important thing to do is to be smart with your training rather than just continuously go, go, go. Because I burnt myself out multiple times this year alone from trying to do that. I can't tell you, this year, I've skipped more runs and more races than I should have done, probably than any time in my running journey. And I've beat myself up a lot about it so much. And luckily I've had this community to fall back on, and have been like, no, you meant your body wasn't ready. You shouldn't have to push yourself to exhaustion. Like it's okay. There's always going to be another race. The idea that like we always have to be on, and social media plays this massive role now. And like, I mean, when you first met me, you saw my profile in my Threads and Instagram name was the anti-Matt Choi. And that was primarily because like I was sick of those people, those influencers, those running influencers who were like always just like so aggressive and so in your face. And it's just always about this grind. We got to keep going and hustling. And I hate those words so much, because there needs to be a moment of reprieve where we get to sit, we get to relax. And if you don't get to do that, you don't get to look back and see the growth that you've made, and you don't get to be happy with what you've done. You just constantly feel like I have to keep chasing the next thing.
I think what happens is we take the word quit too literal, right? Like if you quit, you're a quitter. I have my share of DNFs, I have my share of DNSs, and I would challenge anybody on this planet to tell me I'm a quitter. Like I would like come here and let's have a conversation and point to me where you think I'm a quitter because I've DNF'd or I've DNS'd or I skipped a workout one day, right? Like I would put my resume up against anybody. There was a time, Mike, for about 4 years, maybe 5 years, where I was racing a 100-miler in February and an Ironman in October. And so I like this idea that I'm a quitter, like doesn't make sense, but I think it's because we take it too literally. And so if I quit this workout or if I quit this race by DNFing, I'm a quitter. And the reality is, no, you're being smart about your body so that you can continue to go forward and do more things and do other things down the road too. And I think it helps us gain perspective in life and in the world outside of our sports as well. Because here's another example I often give to people when they tell me about quitting and DNFs. I would ask them, have you ever resigned from a job?
Mm.
And they would say, yes, of course I have. And I'd be like, well, why isn't that considered quitting? Why do you not consider that being a quitter on the job of that from that company? Right. And it's like, oh, because I was looking to better myself. And I'm like, yes,
There we go.
you just nailed it. You pulled yourself out of this event so that you can better yourself in the future. And one of the lessons we got, I raced Lake Sonoma a number of years ago. It was right after COVID. California was in massive lockdown. And so Lake Sonoma's event had gotten moved from May to, it got canceled, and then it got moved from May to September. And I kid you not, it must have been 108 degrees that day at the race. And there is like one tree along the entire course. And I finished in like 13 hours and 45 minutes, and the cutoff was 14 hours. And my goal time, I think, was 11 hours for this event. So I was way off. It was super hot, whatever. And when I finished, Lori told me that there was so much carnage and that there were male athletes who were supposed to probably be top 10 that came back well before I did because they DNF'd. And she talked to one of them because he had actually served us at the Healdsburg running company store selling gels or whatever. And we had talked to him the day before the race or 2 days before the race. And so Lori talked to him and he said, yeah, I DNF'd because it's super hot. I wasn't ready for this heat, and I have another event coming up in whatever it was. And so again, he DNF'd, he quit, right? But he did it for the betterment of himself for the next one. And I think if we can put that into perspective and say to ourselves, yeah, I'm doing it today so that I can be better tomorrow, then I think this whole idea of you're a quitter goes out the window.
Yeah. I mean, it's also so important for the new athlete because I remember I've tried to get in the running so many times in my life. I remember I have memories come up on my phone all the time of like when I would go for a random like 2-mile run or something like that around an old apartment building that I used to have in Queens or something. And I remember looking at it and be like, oh yeah, that's when I tried to run in like 2010 and then 2014 and then 17. And then finally when it kicked in 2018 is when it finally started to kick off. But it took a lot of me fighting against myself to get to that point of the biggest issue was I wasn't good at the very beginning. Like I thought that I needed to be at a certain level as soon as I started. And because I wasn't, I should just quit. And so what do you say to those individuals that are, thinking about getting into running, new to running, they're not at the level that they want to be at or that they think that they should be at based off of what we see on social media now and from these other influencers and the people that are focused on the grind? What do you say to those to try to get them to continue and to not quit?
It's going to be hard. It will never stop being hard. You just get better at handling the hard. That's the reality. Like I've got a speed work session coming up after our conversation here, and it's going to hurt, right? Like I know it's going to hurt. And that's with today's fitness. If I had thought about what my fitness was 17, 18 years ago when I started, the paces I'm running now would be unimaginable, right? But I've gotten better as time goes along, but it doesn't mean it's less hard. It's just a hard at a different level now. And so if you stick around long enough, you're going to progress in these sports and you're going to learn how to adapt to the hard. And that's what I would tell somebody who's just getting into the sport. It's going to be hard. Keep showing up. show up when it's hard, show up again when it gets harder, and it'll keep staying hard, but you'll be better at adapting to what the hard is. And your experience will also tell you when you're starting to butt up against burnout, so that the hard isn't necessarily the physical hard, it's the mental hard, and you need to take a break. But you've gone through that progress. But this stuff it doesn't stop being hard. I will tell you a quick story. When I was racing Ironman, I raced with a guy and trained with a guy. His name is Jeff Folks. We called him Goat. And the reason why we called him Goat is because when it would come to climbing on the bike, he'd be at the top before you even started the climb. And by the time you got up there, he's already baked cookies and he's got sandwiches waiting for you because it's taken you so long and it took him nothing. And I thought I was a good cyclist until I started riding with him. And he would drop me constantly. And so I was like, I got to stick with him. I got to stick with him. I got to stick with him. And it sucked and it sucked and it sucked and it sucked. And I think my very first Ironman, I think my average speed on the bike was about 17 and a half miles an hour. By the time I got to my last one, which was about 7 years later, I averaged almost 21 miles an hour on the bike. And it's just because I went through the hard and I just got better at it, but it was hard work and just sticking with it and sticking with it and sticking with it. So the hard stayed the same. I got better against the hard is, I guess, what I'm saying.
Yeah, I tell myself it didn't get easier, you got stronger.
Right.
And it's funny you mentioned David Goggins and his whole slogan, right? Of what he said.
Stay hard.
Stay hard. So sorry, I just thought that was funny. And now I want to talk about the future of Run Try Bike, right? And I'm going to be the biggest advocate as I possibly can for you, like just in general going forward in the future, as long as I possibly can be. What's your plan for the future? I know you have your meetups going on throughout next year on the West Coast. What else is coming up?
So we have the Everyday Athlete Clubhouse that we launched on August 15th of this year. We're just about 120 members in the clubhouse. I would love to see that grow, mostly because I believe that there are people who are afraid to post on social media about the things that they're going through. And so we've set up this private clubhouse where people can come and hang out and feel comfortable in that space and then find the community that they're searching for, that they're not getting just by being on social media, because it essentially becomes a curated list of supporters, right? So I'd love to see that continue to grow. I'd love to see the Run Club tour grow into a speaking tour as well, so for those of you who don't know, the Everyday Athlete Clubhouse Run Club Tour of 2026 is going to 6 cities across the country, where we're going to actually be running in the races in the cities that we're going to. What I'd love to do is complement that with going to cities where we go to speak at maybe running shoe stores or triathlon shops to talk about this type of conversation, so that people know that they're not alone in the world and they can put on a pair of running shoes and come and hang out. So that's one of the things that I'm looking at. Another thing that we've started doing through the clubhouse is our own podcast network within the clubhouse. So we don't become beholden to a Spotify or an Apple algorithm, where we're hosting and producing and putting the shows under our own umbrella, so that people can see the work that we're doing inside of the clubhouse through those podcasts and get to see that, as opposed to it falling to, show number 782 because there's more and more podcasts showing up on a regular basis. So sort of becoming our own ESPN, if you will, where we can have the podcast under our umbrella and we don't have to worry about an algorithm moving them to the top to go up against, Charlemagne or whomever it might be. So those are two things that are absolutely there. One of the things Lori and I have talked about is potentially opening up a coffee shop that has a running shoe store component to it, as well as a podcast studio as well. So people who, like yourself, who might want to start podcasts, but don't want to go through the whole setup of getting microphones and getting all of that stuff, if we have a podcast studio that they can rent out while also drinking coffee, I think, would be an ideal situation for us to do. So those are 3 really big projects that I can see Run Try Bike and the Everyday Athlete Clubhouse forging forward to. And we've already obviously taken the first step with the 2026 Run Club Tour.
Nice. Now, if you are a big proponent for the Everyday Athlete, and if you have somebody out there who's listening right now, or somebody who is thinking about sharing their running journey, but they're afraid to, whether it's because they think they're going to be judged, or they think that what they post doesn't matter, or it doesn't adhere to some sort of standard or something like that. What do you want to say to that one person to get them over that hump so that they will make that post?
What are you afraid of? Like, ask yourself, what am I afraid of? And really think about it. Because if it's Jane from Joplin, Missouri, or Steve from Sarasota, Florida, that you're worried about critiquing you, just let it go, because you're always going to have somebody critiquing you. You're always going to have, and you probably don't even know that they're critiquing you because they don't comment on it, right? They see it and they're like, this schmuck from New York, whatever. So just do it anyway. Like, but really ask yourself, what is it that you're afraid of? And look, I'll be upfront. Like, it's a question that I ask myself constantly when we're getting ready to do the next thing, right? What am I afraid of about launching the Everyday Athlete Clubhouse? And I will tell you this, it took 2 years for me to launch that clubhouse. Lori has been asking me to do this for 2 years, Mike. And I was like, yeah, but we don't have enough of this, and there's not enough of that. And this other person's already doing this, and all of these excuses. And it seemed like one day Santino and Lori were either talking to each other, and then they were like, let's just bombard him and say he needs to do this. And then we launched it, and it's been fantastic. And I think, it's one of those things like, what is it that you're afraid of? And sitting down with yourself in the moment, maybe you get a pen and paper and write yourself notes. Okay, I'm afraid of this and I'm afraid of that. And then do it anyway and see what happens.
Yeah, it's funny. My wife was the same way with me posting anything on social media, because I'd spoken about for, I think it was about 2 years, maybe 3. I was like, I want to start posting more running footage and running content. And like, I even went so far as to buy like a GoPro, which I never used.
I have one too.
Like, I got rid of it. I just never, I don't like running with cameras. It makes me look weird. Like I think about, but I remember being like, I'm going to do it. I'll do it this year. Like, I was supposed to start in 2024. And then the whole year just kind of somehow went by. And my wife was like, you need to start posting in 2025. I was like, yeah, but I mean, like, other people are doing it, or like, I don't know what voice I have or what my message is going to be. And it's somehow, I didn't join this social media platform as someone who's going to be like, I'm going to celebrate the everyday athlete. It was just kind of, I want to share my story. And then I realized, there's so many negative people on here that are doing X, Y, Z. That's why I started things like the Positive Peloton, a Facebook group, to combat the toxicity of these different platforms that we have. And as soon as I started to see like things come out of it,
like, behind every great idea, there's one person who's pushed the other person to do it, while behind every non-thing that gets done, there's thousands of people telling you why you shouldn't do it.
yes.
So I would much rather be the one advocate that says, do it, go take it, take the chance. Like, I told Joe Harden this 2 or 3 years ago. I'm like, Joe, you have to take risks and bet on yourself. If I didn't do that with Run, Try, Bike, then I don't know who Joe Harden is. We never had that conversation. And so much good has come from it because I took a risk and bet on myself. And I think that we need to do that, take risks and bet on ourselves, despite the hundreds, if not thousands of people telling us that you shouldn't do it. Like, when I got into triathlon and I decided to participate in Ironman events, I had a family member say, we don't do that stuff. And I'm like, who's this fucking we? I'm doing it, right? And not only did I do it, I finished 8 Ironman events. I not only did it, but then I launched a business talking about it on top of it all. And I just think that sometimes we just have to crowd out the noise and take a risk and bet on ourselves. And it's awesome that your wife, gave you the kick in the pants to do it. And Lori has done it for me for 5 years as well. We need that support. And I think that you showing up on Threads and on Instagram the way that you do and the way that Run, Try, Bike does is exactly that one person that's telling somebody else, I believe in you, you can do it.
Yeah. And sometimes the biggest obstacle is not necessarily 1,000 other people, but it's yourself.
Yeah.
And that can feel like 1,000 people.
Yep.
Because I can't tell you the amount of times that I've gone, before I started posting this year, where I'll be like, let me make this video. No, it's a waste of time. No one's going to watch it, or it's just, it's not going to get any traction, or, what have you. And I mean, I think that falls into the whole issue that we have with social media of, if it's not viral, if it doesn't, get you tons of views and likes and follows, it doesn't matter. When in reality, we should be doing the exact opposite and celebrating those individuals
The-
regardless.
The morning cup of Jason is exactly that. Like I did it as a joke, a full-on joke.
I love it every morning. I love it.
And like one or two people at the beginning were like, this is fantastic. And after like a month, I was like, man, I don't want to keep fucking doing this. Like I've had enough of it myself. I'm bored of myself in a sense, right? And Mary, Roddy to the core, who you met when we got together at the coffee shop after that run, she said to me one time, she's like, I can't believe you skipped this day. I look forward to it. And I was like, oh shit, somebody's actually watching this, right? And so like I just keep doing it. And it's not viral. It doesn't get a zillion comments. It doesn't get a zillion. But if one person like you says, I love it, it gives me, 45 seconds of awesomeness, and somebody else says the same thing, that's exciting. That's like absolutely something I want to continue to do. And it's not because, Nescafe is like, hey, I want to sponsor your morning cup of coffee.
No, exactly. I mean, it's those small comments that you realize, oh, people are actually looking at this, and it's the reason that you and I communicated for the first time is like, I didn't realize that people were like looking at my stuff that I was posting and that you were interested in what I was saying. And when you did say that, I was like, when I reached out to connect with you for the very first time, I was like, I've never done anything like this before with anyone. So I don't know what this is like. I don't know what I'm going to say, what I'm going to do, but I'm just going to go in and be myself, and we'll see what happens. And, I'm really happy with where it's turned out.
Yeah. And I appreciate you doing that. And I think that's the other piece too, right? Like we think everybody's reading everything that we post. And the reality is we're getting a fraction of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the more I connect with you and the more I talk to you, the more I've learned about you. And that to me is awesome. Like I have an inquisitive mentality. Like I want to know more. Tell me more. Give me more. And so when we first connected, like I was like, okay, here's Mike. He runs marathons. It literally says it in his bio, right? And he's got a story to tell. And then I interviewed you and I learned about your story about being at the karaoke bar. And I thought that was fascinating. And as the year has gone on, find out that you're married, find out that you're non-binary, find out that you're having a kid and you've gone through the IVF process. Like that's cool shit. Like to me, that's really cool shit. And so then when I see you racing at Boston and you've got your arms up in the air when you're running to finish, I'm like, that picture now means way more to me than if I had just come across it at any other time, because I've been able to connect and hear the story and read the posts. And so now there's more value in the picture that you're posting for me. And then forward projecting, I'm like, Emily's going to be thrilled when she sees him coming around, because I think and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys have a little thing that you do where I think you blow her a kiss when you see her on the course or something to that effect, right? I wouldn't know that if you didn't tell me that, right? And so now I have that and I'm like, oh, Emily got to celebrate that moment. And now you're going to have a daughter that's going to be able to celebrate that moment too. And that's really fucking cool to know that I'm able to connect with you and see these things. And now all those little pieces of your story get added together so that that next finish line at New York City or Boston or, Tompkins Park Marathon, whatever it is, it's got a lot more meaning to it.
Yeah. No, and that's why I love having these conversations, and it's why I love, what you put out into the universe for everyone who wants to become an athlete, because anybody can become an athlete.
%.
And that's what I love about Run Try Bike. Hey everybody, before we get into our last segment, I wanted to take a quick moment to thank today's sponsor, and that is For The Run. For The Run is a running apparel company that creates really high quality shirts, hoodies, and everyday gear designed for runners who care about the why they run just as much as they care about how fast or how far they can go. Their clothing is comfortable, durable, and made to be worn on runs, to races, and in everyday life, all while carrying messages that celebrate mental health, community, and personal growth through running. If you're someone who believes running is about more than performance and likes wearing gear that reflects that mindset, For The Run is absolutely worth checking out. You can find them at forthe.run. And if you use the code FTR-MikeRunsMarathons, you can save 10% off your next purchase. All right, now back to Now, these next questions that I have are what I call a hot seat. So these are just quick, snap decision, this or that questions without thinking. Just give me your answer. So I'll start with the first one, which is trail or road?
Trail.
What's your favorite running shoe brand right now?
Topo.
Early alarm or late night run?
Late night run.
Long run solo or with others?
Solo.
Sweet or savory post-run meal?
Savory.
Oreos?
Not after post run, nachos typically.
Okay. Music, podcast, or silence on your easy runs?
Silence. Unless I'm on the treadmill, in which case I'm watching a show on Netflix or some streaming thing.
Okay. And then what's the one piece of running gear that you can't live without and you can't say your shoes?
Shorts. I don't think anybody wants to see me running naked.
Same. And then you're an ultra runner, so this is, and an Ironman, so this is probably, I want to know what the answer to this is. What's your dream race?
UTMB.
Yes. I thought it would be Badwater.
I've paced at Badwater.
You have? Oh my goodness.
Yes, I've paced at Badwater, and I will say this: I have zero desire to race Badwater. But if anybody's listening to this show and they want a crew member pacer, call me. It is one of the best experiences I've ever had, but I don't know that I have a desire to actually run the race.
I question that I want to do it, but I don't do well in the heat. And since it is the hottest place on earth, I don't know if I would actually be able to survive.
It's hot. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. Now, these last two questions I ask everybody because I'm kind of gathering information. Now, this first question, if you could pick a quote, a mantra, or a line that helps you get through the tough miles, I'm adding it to what I call the motivation library. What would that be?
Relentless forward motion.
Ooh, say more on that.
Yeah, so I had it on my road ID for years, and it means that if I'm continuing to move forward, whether that's, if we're talking about on the bike, and I'm going uphill and I'm going 6 miles an hour, the next pedal stroke forward is getting me closer to the finish line. If I'm running and things are starting to go haywire and sideways and I have to stop to walk, as long as I'm taking that next step forward, I'm getting closer to the finish line. And honestly, a lot of it comes from swimming. Swimming was not the thing that I was good at when I was racing Ironman. It was something that was really difficult for me to do. And I would always tell myself, if I can move my arm forward one more time and I continue to do it, continue to do it, every swim stroke gets me closer to the finish line.
I love that. I mean, I've had so many other people bring up something similar to that, forward is a pace. I mean, just as simple as just keep moving. I mean, finding door, just keep swimming. As long as you're moving forward, you're heading in the right direction.
Yep. I mean, that really is what it's all about, right? Is if we can keep moving forward, like the way I always think about it is, if I take this next step, that's one less step I have to take. And because there is a finish line to all the things that we're doing. And so if we can just keep moving forward, but it has to be relentless. For me, that aggressive mindset of relentless is the thing that makes me want to keep repeating it. And again, like I said, it could be as much of if I'm walking it or going up a climb on a bike at 4, 5, 6 miles an hour, when you're used to averaging 22 plus on flat surfaces, going 6 miles an hour up a hill sounds awful. But if I can be relentless in turning over the pedal stroke, then that 6 miles an hour will get me to that 22 mile an hour flat section eventually.
Absolutely. As someone who has started to get into biking, I can finally understand the speeds.
Yeah.
And so, no, I feel you, because I have a indoor bike that I use now with Zwift, and going up those hills, I'm just like, I fucking hate this.
Yeah, it's brutal.
It's awful.
I told you about Goat. Jeff Folks is his name. He has since passed, but he is the reason why I got good on the bike, is because, like I said, he would climb these steep inclines so easily. And I would think to myself, I want to be like him. Right? And so then when you get on Zwift, and I don't use it as much anymore, you get on Zwift and you're like, this shouldn't be that hard because you're on a stationary bike. Yes. And next thing you know, it's super hard. And you're like, oh my goodness, I just got to turn the pedals over one more time.
You're drenched in sweat and you're like, I didn't even move. What is going on? I'm on a virtual route in Scotland or something. What's going on? Oh man. And now, so this last question is, so you're running the Oakland Marathon, right? You see the finish line, it's coming up. What song is blasting through your headphones as you cross that finish line?
So the irony of you asking this question this week is unreal, Mike. In the past, I'm wearing my Met hat. I'm a Mets fan. I would have said Narco by Timmy Trumpets,
Mm-hmm.
because that was Edwin Diaz's song. He's the former closer of the Mets. He's just recently signed with the Dodgers. And so I would have said that. And now I'm going to say it just came out. It's on the Light Years album by Nas and DJ Premier. It's called New York State of Mind Part 3. And that song, I just heard it before you and I jumped onto this recording. And there's a moment in there where like they're rapping and this one bar comes out and he just says, you know, like New York City, the Knicks, the Mets. And then he goes on to name other teams. And I don't know what it was about just hearing New York City, Knicks, Mets. Like it just gave me all this energy while I was listening to the song. And I was like, so that would be the closing song for the Oakland Marathon next year.
I love that. No, I love hearing the songs that people pick because it says a lot about their personality and also just the tenacity of them being able to get to whatever that finish line is that they're trying to cross, because it takes a lot. I mean, I don't have to tell you, as someone who's an ultra marathon or an Ironman, it can be quite daunting at times.
Yeah, this stuff, like, here's the other thing. So for beginners, like this shit is hard. I will tell you right now, I am deathly afraid of 5Ks. I'll go road in Cocodona again before I really want to entertain this idea of running a 5K, right? One is going to take me 22 minutes, 24 minutes, and one is going to take me 110 hours. But give me the 110 hours because that 5K, it's so hard. And it scares the living crap out of me. This is my first marathon and standalone marathon in 14 years. And I am scared to pieces over it. Again, like it's just hard at this moment in time. And then hopefully by the time we get to Pittsburgh and San Francisco, it will have gotten easier mentally because I've now done it. But this stuff is hard. Yeah, it absolutely is. And it doesn't matter what the distance is.
Yes. And it doesn't matter how long you've been doing it.
Yeah.
I did a 5K race the other week and I finished and was dead by the end. I mean, I've run 16 marathons and you would think that running 3 miles is nothing, but it depends on how you wake up in the morning and it depends on how you feel.
Yes.
Sometimes, for me, I mean, sometimes running a mile, it can be a lot, but as you pointed out, it's going to suck, but you got to keep at it. And as you keep going, you'll eventually get to a point where you feel comfortable and it won't feel as overwhelming as it can feel at the moment.
100%.
Yeah. But no, Jason, that's everything I had today. I really want to thank you so much for coming in and checking in with me and discussing Runtrimag and everything that you offer to the running community as a whole, your philosophy, the stories that you share on a multi-weekly basis, and the heart that you have from your organization is astronomical to the everyday runner, the everyday athlete, the individual who's just thinking about getting started. And I think that the inspiration that you offer to so many people, whether it's somebody who went out and did their first run, did their first marathon, first mile, first 5K, that high five that you give them, that support that you provide them when they might feel alone is honestly what this whole community is about. And I think that you make the running community as a whole better because of it. So I really want to thank you so much for what you do, not just, I mean, for me as well, but also for the running community and also for being on the show today.
Well, my PR cry is going to add one more when we get off of this, because thank you so much. As you know, it's a labor of love. It's hard work to do all of this stuff, and to hear people appreciate it just means everything. So thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me to be on this show with you. Every time we talk, it's always uplifting. So whether we're recording or not recording, I am happy to get on the phone with you, video chat with you, Mike, because you make the world better and you make me better. So thank you.
I appreciate that, man. And likewise, thank you so much. But that was Jason. I really want to thank him again so much for being on this show today. He has been astronomical in his support for me since I began posting my running content earlier this year. And the amount of support that he's given me is something that I take to heart and something that I hope to bring with me to the next runner that is looking to get started, or someone who is questioning whether or not they're heading in the right direction. Because if we have more individuals or more organizations like Runtrimag who are out there supporting the individuals who are just getting started or who are thinking of getting started, who are afraid to share their stories, I think that we will be better as a running community as a whole. So thank you again, Jason, for sharing everything that you did today with Runtrimag and the support that you provide to everybody. But I also want to thank you so much for tuning in to At Your Own Pace. Whether you're walking, jogging, racing or just dreaming about getting started with running, I want you to remember that you belong here at every pace. And until next time, I want you to keep running your story 1 mile at a time, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Can we do it?